Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you for joining me and welcome to Ratt Album Ranking. In honor of the band forming in 1976 and this being their 45th anniversary in 2021, I thought let's celebrate by counting down the band's great 8 studio albums. But before we dive into all that, if you are new to my channel and you haven't already clicked the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this with Ratt Album Rankings. So, got my Ratt shirt on. I am ready to jump into this. So coming in at number 8 is the self-titled release from 1999, 7th studio album from the band. It was recorded as a 4-piece, so just one lead guitarist and Warren DeMartini. It did see the band return to a major label, which is great for them at the time. But the style of this album is a departure from their signature sound. It's got less of the glam metal elements to it that we know and love them for. More slower groove and straightforward hard rock on this one. Despite those changes though, I do think this is a really strong album, and even though it's coming in at number 8 for me, I actually find myself going back and listening to this one quite a bit. Coming in at number 7, Infestation from 2010, 8th studio album by the band. And for this one here, the band returned as a 5-piece, first to feature new guitarist Carlos Cavazo on coming from Quiet Riot, who I think was a great addition to the band. The album itself is a return to form following on from the new sound of their self-titled 1999 album. All of the material on here is really good. It is very classic sounding, but none of it really comes close to the original classic era of the band. For me, it's missing those defining lead guitar riffs from guitarist Warren DeMartini. You know, good song structures and everything, just not enough Warren on this album. Coming in at number 6, we've got Collage from 1997, 6th studio album by the band. It is considered a compilation because it features leftover songs from the band's first 5 albums, but most of those were reworked and edited for this thing and put together in some form or embellished in that way. It also features new recordings on it, and so for all of those reasons, I'm choosing to include it in the countdown. Despite the first track on here, Still River, having a much more modern feel to it, it's actually a song from the band's early days when the band was still called Mickey Ratt before they were signed. The song itself is called Rail Break, so it is a very classic song in terms of that, but just ends up having a more modern feel by the way that it's done. Despite that though, the rest of the album is very classic in feeling. Dr. Rock, Diamond Time Again, Warren DeMartini's lead riffs are all over this album here, which is why it's ranking higher than the 2 previous albums in this list. Coming in at number 5, we've got Reach for the Sky from 1988, 4th studio album. Good album, classic sounding, but maybe a little too polished for me at least. Not as definitive as the first 3 albums. And despite the album containing the classic Way Cool Jr. on it, the rest of the songs just weren't very strong in my opinion. Part of this might be to the fact that they had a different producer on this one, Mike Stone, instead of Beau Hill, who would produce their first 3 albums. But when things started to not work out with Mike, they brought Beau Hill back into it to fix things, I think all leading to a very inconsistent sounding album. 2 of the album cuts though that did work for me that I think stand out on this bottom line and What's It Gonna Be. Okay, coming in at number 4, and I know this one will be a bit controversial, Out of the Cellar, 1984 debut studio album by the band, follow-up to the 1983 EP. And of course, as I mentioned, the why this might be controversial is just in the fact that I think for most people, this would be their number 1 album. It's certainly their best-selling album, going to triple platinum in sales in terms of or at least in the US, and features 4 of their biggest hits, Wanted Man, Back for More, Lack of Communication, and Round and Round. But for me at least, the album cuts on here just aren't as strong. So the album itself has a bit of an inconsistent feel to it. Between, you hearing those really strong hits that are on this here and the weaker album cuts, which is why for me this one here falls at number 4. All right, coming in at number 3, we've got Invasion of Your Privacy from 1985, second studio album. My first album by the band. This is one I purchased on cassette back in the day. And while not featuring as many hits as the debut album, it does feature 2 monumental songs in You're in Love and Lay It Down. And for me, this album here is where the band really came into their own. Also, the album cuts on here are much, much better. All the songs have a really high quality to them, like Never Use Love and Between the Eyes. Just in all, I think the album itself is a much stronger album in my opinion. Coming in at number 2, Dancing Undercover from 1986, third studio album by the band and my favorite of the 80s era. Absolutely great sounding production on this one here. Opening up with songs like Dance, which is just one of their best in my opinion, but each song after that is really good too, like One Good Lover, Looking for Love. But then also there were 2 other hits that were on here, Slip of the Tongue, Body Talk. There's just no bad songs on this album. Everyone is unique and stands out in my opinion. There's a lot more distinctiveness between the songs on here, making for a much more interesting listen in my opinion. And coming in at number 1, another one that's sure to be controversial, Detonator from 1990, 5th studio album by the band, first not to be produced by Beau Hill, their longtime producer, who had produced their first 4 albums. Instead, they brought in Desmond Child, who produced under a pseudonym, Sir Arthur Payson. It was the last to feature the original lineup of the band, and while not as successful as previous albums, I do think this one here stands head and shoulders above all the rest. All of the songs are expertly written on here. Warren's riffing and lead work is very prominent. It's all over the album. And in 31 years of listening to this, I've never tired of any of the songs on here. The first 2 singles I think were outstanding. Loving You's a Dirty Job and Shame, Shame, Shame. But then there's album cuts on here that I think were just as good. All or Nothing with its Way Cool Jr. feel to it, Can't Wait on Love with its blistering lead work, or Giving Yourself Away, which was just an outstanding ballad that should have been huge for the band. These songs and so many others that are on here I think easily could have been hits if they had just promoted it in the right way. That's for all those reasons is why this is coming in at number 1 on my Ratt album ranking. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to check the description for links to related videos, such as my run through on my 33 CD Ratt collection, which features of course the Ratt albums, but also side projects and offshoots and things of that nature. Give you guys a little bit more and a deeper dive into the catalog of Ratt. And if you enjoyed this, please share it out on social media, help spread the word that way. I would also appreciate it. All right, leave your comments, let me know your thoughts, give me your best album or top rundown of the Ratt collection. Have a great day everyone, and I'll talk to you all real soon. Bye-bye.